Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. These are pinch rods, and these used to be in every single toolbox. But why? For those of you who want the short answer and just to get to the point, basically this is an old-fashioned tape measure. This predates tape measures, it predates folding rules, it predates the zigzag rules. These things did it all without those pesky little marks. To really see why pinch rods are so cool, you have to do a little bit of history, because this concept can be a little bit confusing to the modern mindset. We think of measurements as meters, centimeters, inches, a defined distance from here to here. But historically speaking, that's really a new concept. Throughout most all of human history, standard measurements didn't exist. An inch here was different from an inch there, was different from an inch there, and the actual amount of how much is an inch really didn't matter, because I was not going to be giving my measurements to someone in another town. My measurements were just for me in my shop. And since it's just me in my shop, I really don't need any particular standard measurement. I just need to know how far is it from here to here, not in inches or centimeters or any particular amount, but just that length is that length. And it's this weird concept that is really, really hard for a lot of people to wrap their brain around. It doesn't matter how many inches long this stick is just this stick long. If I need to measure how long this stick is, well, I can put it on something else. I can set it up flush with the end. I can bring over my marking knife and I can mark there. That distance from there to there is one stick. And that is the beginning of what's called a story stick. That is what predates pretty much all measurement. And it is probably the most accurate form of measurement you can possibly have, because you have reality. You have marked from this point to this point and transferred that as closely as you humanly can. So you now know that distance. How many inches is it? Doesn't matter. How many centimeters? Doesn't matter. It is that distance. It is reality. When I'm building a piece of furniture, I generally don't use a tape measure for my own purposes. Because in my shop, it doesn't matter how long it is, as long as it fits in the space it's intended to go. And usually I'm going to take a stick up there and I'm going to mark it, and that's going to be the beginning of it. My dresser needs to be this long by this wide, and while I've got a stick, I mark and I mark. I don't care how many inches it is, and in my shop, everything then builds off of that. There's no real reason to use standard measurements in my shop. But the problem is, what if you want to build what I build and you're not in my shop and you don't have access to my stick? Well, in that case, I need to have a standard measurement. I need to have a number that I can give to you that is the same. So I know that this inch is going to be really, really close to what your inch is. That centimeter, it's going to be really, really close to what your centimeter is. So I can tell you it's this many centimeters long. So in general, the only reason I'm going to be using standard measurements is if I need to give you the distance and you don't have my stick. And that's where plans come in. Is on the plans I can say it's so many inches long, it's so many centimeters wide. And in that case, you can make exactly what I make without my stick. But every time you transfer information, you're going to lose a little bit. One-to-one measurements are always going to be the most accurate measurements you can make. If you can have a stick that has a reality on it, well, that is going to be so much more accurate than any tape measure or any measuring device or even pulling out calipers. Having reality is far more important than having a measurement. A lot of woodworkers, when they're making a project, have a stick with a whole bunch of marks on it. And those are all the standard measurements needed to reproduce the particular project. So if you're doing something over and over again and you need something that's exactly the same every time, if you have a story stick, you have all the needed measurements you need to reproduce the product. Now, I could manufacture story sticks and ship those out with plans, and that would work really well, but for the most part, inches and centimeters, they're actually pretty accurate. So there isn't that much need for it, especially in modern days. But before modern measurements and standardizations, people used pinch rods. And these were kind of magical. The problem is, if I need to just measure something once and transfer that information to another point in the project, well, most of the time I'm just going to grab the real piece and transfer the information. But if I can't do that, well, then I'll make a story stick. but then I'm making a story stick for just one transfer and putting a bunch of marks on a stick for one use. It's kind of wasteful and time consuming, and then you have a stick with thousands of marks and you're like, which mark was it? And you have to keep track of them, and that just becomes painful. But for a one-time transfer, pinch rods are absolutely awesome. So this is a really, really traditional pinch rod. It's got these brass blocks on here and allows it to slide in and out. I put it to a point, I turn this knob, and it locks down in place. Now it doesn't slide. Now I have a reality stick that's a measurement from this point to this point that is whatever it is, that's the measurement I need. And then when I need to measure the next thing, I just loosen the knob, I slide it over, and I reset it. I've got another measurement here. This is an infinite amount of measurements. Kind of sounds familiar, but without all the markings on here. Now, yes, as measurements became more standardized, you did find pinch rods that actually had measurements on the side, so you knew when you slid it out to here and you locked it down that it was so many inches from here to here, and then you add it by the standard length of this stick and you knew exactly how many inches it was, and you could give it to a friend who needed that particular measurement in another place. But otherwise, you didn't really need the markings that much. They just were a nice extra. The problem with pinch rods is they were a bit limited. I can only measure things that are as short as that, and I can only measure things that are as long as that. So I need to have a set of these that have different amounts that I use for different instances, but you usually end up with 2 or 3 sets depending upon how big things you normally measure. That is kind of limiting. And then someone said, whoa, 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 I've got a better idea. Rather than just having one stick attached to it, what if we attached another stick onto another stick, onto another stick, onto another stick? Oh, here's some serious pinch rods. So with these, I can slide each one of these out, and now I have measurements 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I can keep on going, and I can make it as long as I need to find out exactly what the measurement needs to be. And if I need something in between, I just go onto here, and I know from here to here is 12 inches. And then I've got another 1, 2, 3, so now we're up 15 and a little bit short of a ½ inch. So I got exact measurements on here as well as the reality distance from here to here. These here though are a little bit fiddly to slide in and out. Anytime you have a sliding dovetail, they tend to jam a little bit. Then someone said, oh, I've got a better idea. And the folding rule was born. The problem was with the folding rule, you're stuck. You can't do those in-between measurements. I mean, you could kind of do this, but then it's really easy to wiggle that out. And so someone said, well, what if we mixed a folding rule and a pinch rod? And look at this. Now we've got a folding rule with a pinch rod bent in. So now I can get an exact measurement from here to here, and I can do that same sliding mechanism. Oh, now that's really cool. Well, what if we took that one step farther and we actually made it fold in a better format? Some of these even have the sliding rule on there. And then someone said, wait. What if I took this and rather than folding it, I rolled it up into a coil? Tape measure! And as things moved on, people became less focused on reality and more focused on the measurement. And that's kind of because manufacturing became out and someone needed to tell someone else, hey, I need something that's this long, and they weren't in the shop to actually make it. So having a standard measurement made that a lot easier to say, I need something 6 inches long as opposed to I need something this long. Being able to transfer that information from one person to another is incredibly valuable. But the downside is you do lose a little bit of information every time you transfer it. One person's inch is not going to match another person's inch dead on. Every tape measure is off by a little bit, and the longer you measure, the more it's going to be off. And there are some downsides to it, but there are some massive upsides. But if I don't have to transfer the information to anyone, honestly, most of the time I measure with a stick, because that's pretty much the most accurate thing you can get. I put a mark on here that's exact on. Or even better yet, if I need to duplicate this stick and I need to put it somewhere else, I'm going to put this stick right onto what I want to measure and I'm going to mark it off. And I know that that is precise. There is no variance. This is reality. You can't get any more accurate than reality. That's a lot better than any particular standard measurement. The problem is, I can't give it to you. So if I want to give you plans on how to build a story stick, I have to use standard measurements to say, make it this size, which is kind of funny if you think about it. I did a video very recently making this particular set of pinch rods, and I absolutely love these. But a lot of people didn't understand what pinch rods were, and so I had to realize that we have to go back and talk about it. Because standard pinch rods are really easy to make. They're really, really simple. They're just two boards that are put together. You could even put a little spring clamp on it and get the exact same thing. Actual pinch rods are really kind of a dumb thing. And Jeff from Reed Plains said, well, I want to make something that's a little more elegant. I want something that's a little more streamlined. So having this here with not having the boxes on the outside, having the dovetails on the inside, this is just a very, very elegant and beautiful form of pinch rod. So no, you don't need elegant and beautiful but difficult to make. You can make very simple ones. Also, when making pinch rods, I kind of glazed over their common uses today because there are still a lot of uses where these are incredibly useful that a tape measure is just really bad at. And I thought they were pretty well understood. And so I wanted to kind of point out, well, where would you actually use pinch rods today? One of the most common ways that people use them is measuring square. So I've got this box here and I want to put a tape measure in. I can put it into this corner. I can put it over here and it's about 17 and a little more than a quarter. I put it this way and it's about 17 and just a little bit more than a quarter. So yeah, that looks square. But then I put this pinch rod in here and I put it in nice and tight from corner to corner and I tighten it down and then I put it in this way and now it doesn't fit down in there. I know that this measurement is smaller than this measurement, and so I can go back and forth with it until I get this that measures and fits in there perfectly both corner to corner. Very fast, very accurate. The problem is, what if I need to measure from outside to outside? That's where a tape measure works really well because I can clip it on there and I can measure outside to outside. Jeff from Reed Plains then said, well, what if I put washers on here? Now I can use this the same way and I can actually measure from outside to outside, but with the accuracy of pinch rods. I can put this on here, and then with these washers, now I actually have another measurement to the outside of the washers, and that gives me the exact thickness I need for a piston fit drawer. So now I can measure the opening size of the slot this is supposed to go into, as well as the total thickness of the drawer, so I know I'll get a nice tight fit, measuring both measurements at one time. And that's really kind of genius. One of the modern worries that a lot of people have is that this is not coplanar with this, and oh no, isn't that going to throw the measurement off? And the short answer is no, it really makes absolutely no distance. It kind of does in the brain for some reason, but in reality, having them out is really not that big a deal. And to make it a little easier for some people, these ones just come to a very simple point, so it's very easy to measure point to point, and because they're angled up towards the top, now your points are close to the middle, so they're a little less coplanar, even though it doesn't make any actual measurement difference, it just makes it feel better to the person making them. But for those of you who like tape measures, you can actually make a little block like this, and this will actually fit into the corner so you can get a nice, clean, accurate measurement, as well as it fits on the outside, locks onto it a little bit better. It gives you a much more accurate measurement. A really simple little device that you can put onto it. You can see some with magnets that move around. I like this one that's bolted on and just a standard lock. Jeff from Reed Plains actually made a set of plans for that. He has these free, so you can download it if you want to, and make a really simple pinch rod with a tape measure. Pinch rods have just so many uses and they are incredibly accurate. If you don't need to transfer the information to someone else and you want to get a really accurate measurement, pinch rods really are the way to go. And there's a reason why they were in every toolbox for years and years. Even after tape measures came out, these had an accuracy you just couldn't pass up. And they're so simple and easy to use, and you can make a bunch of them very quickly. They're just a lot of fun. Now, this weekend, I actually have a video coming out making this set with the traditional box-style pinch rods. Jeff actually is making these as a kit so you can buy all the hardware you need. I'll leave links to that down below. Or you can buy the hardware kit for this one, as well as he has plans so you can actually get all three of them and get them all together as one bundle. So if you want to see that, I have links to that down below. And Saturday, we'll be making these, which are really, really quick and simple and very easy, especially in comparison to the complicated version of this. But really, this is far more ornate and rather beautiful, and just it's more pleasing to use this. Though this is probably more traditional, and you'll see these in far more boxes because they're just a little more robust and standardized. So I hope you like this little weird trip down pinch rod lane. Yeah, story sticks, pinch rods, it's a very interesting tool that apparently has been kind of lost. And they have so many great uses because they are a very, very accurate way to transfer measurements. So if you want to see more on this, I'll have a link to making this one down below. And this weekend, I will have a link to making these two as well, so you can see them all, as well as plans are available, or you can buy the kits. Links to all of that down below. So yeah, this is a lot of fun, and the more you use pinch rods, the more you find you want to use them more, and they're a really, really cool tool. So I hope you like this. If you have any questions or ideas, let me know those down in the comments down below. I do read through all of them, and I answer as many as I can get to. On top of that, putting questions down below does actually help out the channel. It's just like hitting like, share, subscribe. Thank you. Really, honestly, those things do help out the channel, so thank you for doing that. Small things make a big difference. If you want to take it one step farther and make a really big difference, there are a bunch of people scrolling over here on the side. They are the patrons on Patreon. We are completely sponsored by you, the viewer. I don't do sponsorships here on the channel, so you get to have a greater say in what goes on here. So thank you for that. As well as patrons on Patreon, there are members who've clicked the little join button down here. We have special perks for both, and I have some more information about that down below. If you go down there, you can see that information. I think that'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. Oddly enough, these were commonly used in baseball. You could use this to hit the ball, and that would be called a pinch hitter.